And we are now live with our beta show of this unnamed con thing that we're planning to do. So I'm, of course, joined with my cohort here, Daniel Davis of Steam Crow fame.
And I'm here with Jason Rogers of the Fez-o-rama.
And the idea, let's just start off discussing what our concept is here. So this, in theory, somebody's going to actually watch this episode or go back to watch this episode after we get rolling on it. So basically, just throw out your short pitch for what this thing is about, if you want, and then we'll bounce back and forth.
Well, under pressure. Jason asked if I wanted to do a show with him about how to make cons better, how to exhibit better, how to be more professional, how to be more theatrical with one's display. But I think even beyond that, how to succeed too, as an indie artist, standing out in a huge world of con stuff. That's my take of it anyway.
And I think what really the drive I have for it is I think that we both have a very craftsman-like attitude towards what we do, and I think that becomes the kind of the key focus for us, and that's what's kind of unique about what we're doing. We try to present a very professional air in our presentation, in our booth, and in our product, of course. But at the same time, we're both also very hands-on, and we want to not only make it look like we've put a lot of thought into it, but also make it look like we've done something with it. It's not, we don't just hire out or buy commercial finished goods kind of thing. So for me, in my point of view, I've been doing these the Comic Cons and other shows much more recently than Daniel has. So the alternative motive, from my point of view, is there's a lot that I can learn from picking his brain in the sense of his experiences working with not just Comic Cons, not just the big Comic Cons, but also the book fairs, a lot of smaller independent artist presentations, as well as launching your own show, your Keen Halloween.
Sure. Yeah, and when Jason asked me, I was thrilled because if you've seen the Fez-o-rama booth, it is a thing of beauty. It's a beautiful piece of furniture. It is super practical. It is sort of a magic machine. And also, the thing we share, I think, in common is that we see booth design as a total extension of our art. Like, it's part of the art of what we make. So to take your Fezes out of the Fez-o-rama booth would be a sad thing because they go lockstep together. So
yeah, that's actually something that has been a concern for me when I get approached to do to sell through a retailer, a store. And I wonder, well, I haven't really put nearly as much thought into how I would present the product in a store setting as I have presenting in the little theater of Comic Cons. So I think there's a lot to explore on this show as the weeks go on, as we go from week to week and session to session. And the discussion that we had earlier is that we're going to be visiting different topics week to week. So we'll try to drill down and get a little bit more focused into the individual topics that we deal with as artists, as exhibitors, and as well as just being part of the overall convention. And I think that's the unique take that we will be bringing to this is there's such a varied experience that can be had at a convention, at a comic convention, at a fan convention. And from our point of view, we don't even, I mean, there's a unique experience just from exhibitors alone. So we get there's a lot of podcasts out there that discuss the ins and outs of, what's happening as far as the panels and what announcements are made. And of course, there's a lot of celebrity podcasts that'll talk about their experiences going to one of the bigger cons. But I think the interesting thing for us will be to discuss our experiences being on the other side of that little table and discussing. And our goal, the long-term goal, is to bring in guests and do larger hangouts with other exhibitors and get their take, and even reach across the aisle and start talking to some of the people doing presentations and panels and announcements, and so media people and things like that, so that we can kind of compare and contrast the experiences and what we can take away, all under the idea that by sharing this knowledge and sharing our experiences, we can kind of help everyone out instead of making it some kind of secret, that you want to protect from everyone else. I think sharing actually will improve all of our experiences.
Sure. Yeah, I agree. Also, if you have a topic that you'd like us to cover, make sure you leave us a comment and let us know, because I think we're open to some direction as well.
Absolutely, yeah. As well as questions for either of us directly about what our experiences are to get more feedback. So I think that's going to be a big potential for what we're covering here, is to start involving more and more people and make it more of a dialogue. The reason we're gonna start it, we're gonna do the hangouts. We're gonna do a couple beta hangouts as we kind of figure out what we're doing. Debugging, lighting, and all sound and everything like that, and get used to the idea of the presentational aspect of talking. I've seen a lot of hangouts that have operated with 4 or 5 people, and it gets kind of jarring. So it'll be good for us just to practice the conversations just between the two of us. So this show, you'll notice, is the Unnamed Con Beta Show episode 0.00, and that is mostly because we have not settled on an official title yet. So that'll be one of the topics we'll cover tonight. We can discuss topic or title ideas. And then also we both were just at the WonderCon convention in Anaheim this past weekend. So even though it's a little early in the show, I think we can go ahead and jump in and discuss our experiences at WonderCon as well.
Yeah, in fact, let's start with that. I think that's a great point where there's some value there versus us trying to figure out what the heck we call this stupid thing. So for now, right now the show is called, just so you know, the WonderCon Show.
Okay.
Just for now.
Just right now. Just this little section right now.
Right.
So just let's a little background for us on the WonderCon show, I guess. It's a local show for me because I live in Long Beach, California, and the show's at Anaheim. So it is my home turf. So it's a different experience for me. Whereas you, Daniel, you are driving in from out of state. So
sure. So was this your first WonderCon?
No, this was my second WonderCon. I've only done WonderCon since last year, and it was in Anaheim again last year. Mm-hmm. So this is the first 2 that they've done in Anaheim.
Yeah. This was our 8th WonderCon. So we've done several up in San Francisco, which we loved. But once it moved to Anaheim, it was kind of great for us because, while we miss our San Francisco friends and cohorts, we could drive. And that's a huge thing because when you bring a big old display, flying is super tough. It is so hard. And if, we're trying to bulk out a 10 by 20 booth, how to do that in an airplane, it doesn't work. So not without a ton of planning. So anyway, yeah, so I miss WonderCon San Francisco, but I really enjoy that we can drive.
Now, in WonderCon, I've never done WonderCon San Francisco, so the logistics of driving versus flying, is that simply because of, it's not just distance. It's time. It's time.
Yeah, it's more than just distance. It's time. Donna, my wife partner, as I call her, my wife partner, she still has a job, and she's a teacher, so she already maxes out her time that she can take off for school. So we've got to get in and out. So even just driving to WonderCon was still a 5-day affair for us. The one day getting there to prep, and then the breakdown, and then leaving the next day. It turns out to be a 5-day thing. Driving would it'd have to add another day on each end. We're not the kind of people that can we're going to drive for 24 hours because I'm 70 years old and I just can't do it. I sleep drive.
Right. Now, just out of my own curiosity, you've in the San Francisco one, because there's talk of them restarting the San Francisco one or bringing it back up to San Francisco next year.
There is, though I heard a juicy rumor.
Ooh, rumors. Oh, our first show, we've got a good rumor.
Ooh, here it is. I talked to a couple employees of CCI, and they said that they were probably going to leave a show here, and as soon as they can get WonderCon back to San Francisco, expect that it'll go back there. But the show's been way too successful in Anaheim to let it go. So I don't know if they'll rebrand them as WonderCon North and South or give them different names or identities, but they hinted that there would be one in the spring and one in the fall with Comic-Con in the middle. So I heard that from two different Comic-Con people, and the fact they're telling me this tells me it's probably a pretty accurate thing, because they're usually pretty tight-lipped with secret stuff.
Yeah, then that actually goes in line with the rumors I've been hearing from people. So not so much that they're moving they're not moving WonderCon back to San Francisco and leaving Anaheim, but that they're going to have a North and South or a San Francisco and Anaheim version.
Yeah. I know if you read pretty much every interview you read from those organizers, they're very fond of San Francisco WonderCon. And I know a lot of people online are like, oh, they hate San Francisco and I hate them for moving and blah. They get all pissed off. But I'm like, listen.
Well, it is the internet. They're required to get blah.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. But not my part of it. But they try. The thing is, it's the Moscone Center. Moscone is it's a big center, but the shows they have, the tech shows, are really, really big. So WonderCon doesn't have any clout with them. They don't pull in enough hotel rooms to, it's all about booking hotel rooms, the con game is. So don't be mad at those guys about it. They've been trying every year to bring it back, and there's just a certain point where they have to do something, and so it's Anaheim for now.
Yeah, and that's an interesting thing, because last year's WonderCon, probably because of the late time that they booked the show, was kind of tucked away in the corner of the convention center, and there was a big volleyball tournament that same weekend. So we did not have great placement, and it was a fairly small show compared to this year, where it was at least twice the size.
Yeah,
as last year's show, as far as the exhibitors floor. And we had A and B, we had the prime halls, as well as upstairs they were using for panels and presentations.
Do you know how many halls there are in the building? I've never looked.
I've been to the NAMM show there like 12, 15 years, it seems. And we used A and B. I think there's about 5 halls, and it connects directly into the event center, the circular area. So it potentially could double in size again. We weren't using nearly the space.
Yeah, because I've always heard that if it moved to Anaheim, if San Diego Comic-Con moved to Anaheim, it could be a larger show.
Yes.
And so now potentially WonderCon, in a number of years, could potentially do that.
Yeah, there is a basement convention area. Basement in the sense that it's below the A, B, and C area.
Really?
And yeah, so there's another level downstairs. Just guessing about the same size as the area that we were in last year.
Wow, okay.
And then the area we were in last year was not even a quarter of the floor. Mm-hmm. And then it does they can keep opening it up all the way into the arena area. So yeah, they could easily expand to that level. And there's already the infrastructure for hotels there because of the Disneyland property.
Right.
So yeah, they have the potential to expand to that scale, because you see San Diego. I haven't been back to San Diego Comic-Con in years, probably about 5 years, mostly because booking a hotel is just such a nightmare. That you have to book a hotel before you even know if you've got tickets to the show, in a sense, unless you're buying them year to year. So
yeah, I don't even know that they allow that anymore.
I have no idea.
Yeah, you can't even buy at the end of the show. You can't buy next year's tickets at all.
Really?
Yeah. So everybody has to get into the lottery. So that's kind of what one of the gripes is for long-time local attendees. People who have been going for 20 years are like, I used to be able to make sure I'd go next year, and now I'm just in the lottery like everyone else.
Wow. Yeah,
so it's unfortunate.
it does put a damper on the experience. I did Google I/O a couple of years back, and at up in San Francisco, and that's my only real experience with the convention halls in San Francisco, was just attending Google I/O, which was a huge, like you said, it was a huge tech conference. It was only 2 days, and it's 3 days now. But it's almost a lottery system, because you get up bright and early one morning and you desperately attempt to book the show. And I've done that last year and this year. I just attempted to get in, and the servers would bog down, and most people's experiences were fairly negative in that sense.
Right.
And it does change it changes your view towards a show. And the unfortunate thing for that is, as exhibitors, you see San Diego as a market. You see Anaheim as a market. And I'm visiting Southern California. I'm visiting that that area of people. And if it becomes a lottery show where people can't get in, it's almost like you're going to San Diego, but you're not reaching San Diego people.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. You're reaching people from everywhere.
Yeah, which is, it's a positive at the same time. I mean, it's great you're drawing all these people in, but you've specifically driven to San Diego, and you're going to get a whole bunch of people who also are going to be at Phoenix, or, so it creates an interesting dilemma of success, getting in the way, in a sense.
Right. And I feel bad, because I know those guys are doing their best to manage the show, and a lot of the talk anymore seems to be negative when I talk to another artist or someone, and I feel bad, because I don't have that experience, because it's my best show, but I know that over the years we've gotten to know a few of those organizers, a few of those guys, and they're terrific people, and I know that I know they're struggling to figure out what the fairest, best solution is for all these massive growth problems. So I don't have the answer.
No, well, it's like you said, it's a growing pains scenario, and that's actually one of the interesting things that we were watching at WonderCon, because it has the potential in every a lot of the people will complain that San Diego's being taken over by media companies, that it's being used to promote the next Avengers film or whatever. And the irony there is that Anaheim is even closer to that, to those properties. And yet the Anaheim show did feel a little bit more artist-based, a little bit more, I don't want to say pulled back, but a little bit more comic book, in a sense.
Yeah, maybe. I guess, certainly compared to San Diego, I'd agree. Yeah. But compared to last year, it felt more like San Diego to me.
Yes, yeah. I think last year was an interesting scenario because of the move. So when they moved it from San Francisco to Anaheim, I think that was enough of a shakeup that a lot of people who had planned to be WonderCon San Francisco couldn't make the trip, because it changes their reality. Suddenly now San Francisco people are driving or flying, and they have all those hurdles to deal with. Right. It was, and that gave us the window to get in, because it moved to my backyard, and it was like, oh, let's get in. So it was a fairly small show. As they expand, then you get the scenario where we've moved to a larger hall. We've doubled the halls. We've got 2 halls now, and then we have to fill those spaces. And that's when you get the media companies promoting something.
Yeah, I expect it. If it continues to grow, we had one movie company, right? One movie was being promoted.
Yeah, Oblivion had a large presence in our hall. I don't recall really anybody else.
Well, not in the hall. You're right. Not in the hall, but Joss Whedon had his Much Ado About Nothing panel. So again, though, that's sort of the first step, right, into the Hall H world.
Yeah, no, that's true. That is the first step. So that's a good point that we could see, and especially when you consider release timing, because they also had a Evil Dead panel happen, because Evil Dead comes out this Friday, so that's ideal timing for them. So you're always going to get that. And it'll be interesting to see as it moves forward what kind of an impact. And truth be told, there's a lot of organizers, a lot of companies or cons are trying to work towards that model I
Sure.
think, there's of course, there's different cons for different purposes, but it does feel that a number of cons look at San Diego as a hey, we could do this also.
Right, right. And yeah, maybe that's a good thing and maybe it isn't, as you're kind of leading to.
Well, I'd like to think that the flip side is if enough cons are there and available, then maybe not all of the media has to hit one con.
Right.
And we don't have to have a panel for every single movie coming out in the next fiscal year at this
Totally.
one con. If they know they have we have WonderCon, San Francisco will be in the fall or whatever, and it's closer to our release date in December, so we'll promote it at that convention, and we'll skip this convention and spread them out a little bit more.
Sure. I mean, I doubt they're, who knows if they're free thinking like this, but you could see going into one of these other shows that's a 50,000 person show and being the movie of the
Right.
show instead of one of many, by really going to Emerald or a Phoenix or whatever, or WonderCon and really doing that. So interesting thing. I don't know if they have the budget to hit many shows. I know, they tend to hit the East and West Coast, once or twice, but yeah, it'll be interesting to watch.
Yeah.
Let's swing to WonderCon. How was it for you this year? Do you have any thoughts or?
From a selling point, I'd say volume we did about the same as WonderCon last year. I think, and that's just looking at the numbers on Fez's. I didn't dig into the numbers on all the little accessory stuff that we also offer. What was really interesting about WonderCon this year, and this is, like I said, I'm fairly new to this experience, so this was new to me, but was the networking.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I pretty much stayed in my booth the entire weekend, and the few times I managed to get out, I managed to talk. I ran into some other people. I said hi, but there was a lot of talk this year about joint projects, about networking. Like just the actual, helping each other up kind of stuff. And I don't recall that it really at all last year. So from that, which is kind of funny when you think about it, that's what the conference part of Comic Con, actually means, is you interact.
Right.
But there were a lot of people that I talked to who were interested in collaborating on some work, or me doing custom work for them, or helping expose what we do. So from that standpoint, it was fantastic. It was a really great experience.
Awesome.
Now you, how did you do? Number one, how did you do at WonderCon this year versus last year?
We did really well. But let me phrase that. Let me set the setting. Is that historically WonderCon for us has been an up and down show in growth. It was our very first show, WonderCon 2000, whatever year it was, 2005 or 6. I think 6. I don't know. That was our very first show we'd ever done. And we did some crazy stuff. We had a small press table. We didn't do, it was great, but now in perspective with how things have gotten better, we did great to start with, but we made a ton of huge mistakes. Anyway, the last San Francisco WonderCon, so 3 years ago, was an up show for us. It was a really good show. We had finally had these years where WonderCon's growth has been kind of like this, like it's going up for us, but other shows have been going up like this. And so at first, all our shows were the same. And then some shows started pulling away, and WonderCon kind of got left behind. And for the scale of show it hadn't been a great performer for us compared to other shows, compared to the Emerald Cities and the Phoenix Comic-Cons in particular. Those two shows have had explosive growth, and still yet smaller attendance than WonderCon, but they blow WonderCon out of the water for us. So last year, 3 years ago, I was really excited because we had that growth we wanted. And so I'm like, we're going to buy a double booth because we're already doing double booths in other cities. It's time for us to move and try to do that everywhere, because going back and forth from a big booth to a small booth and back and forth is really tough. From a logistical standpoint, from a product standpoint, you develop all this product that you cannot bring to a small show. So it doesn't work great. So I like to do one type of show a lot. Anyway, so we moved to Anaheim last year, and sales were the same. So I spent twice as much booth money for the same take. So that was really disappointing. But this year, I saw the kick. I saw the kick up finally. It was delayed a year because of the move, because of all the things we've talked about. Also, a difference in the shows year to year. Last year, I had a ton of people that were wearing Mickey Mouse gear and would say things like, well, how much is this? And I'd tell them how much it is, and I go, oh, I'm saving my money for Disneyland. And I would be like, oh, you stabbed me in the heart. You're killing me. Why you do this? But this year I didn't have that. I felt like the people that were at WonderCon were excited to be at WonderCon. And that was terrific.
Yeah, that's true. Now that I think about it, I did not see that much. I mean, I saw a few people wearing, clearly they just bought their sweatshirts or whatever at the parks, in a day or two prior. But it did seem to be a little bit more of what I would call a mature con crowd.
Yeah, which is great. These are people that like to go to Comic-Cons. They like to buy a keepsake from the show, and that's really great. What else? There was something else I was going to bring up. I think I have a theory of why that is this year, and I could be totally wrong, but it's the only theory I have. Is that I have a friend that lives in LA, and he listens to a rock station, and on this rock station, they had ads for WonderCon starting on the Monday before the show, and every hour there's a WonderCon ad. And to me, that tells me they're going after the local market. Local market, Disneyland is something you do anytime. It isn't like oh God, I must go to Disneyland because I'm near it. Where if you're coming from across the country or from somewhere else, man, you got to get in the Disneyland too. So
yeah,
that's my theory.
That's actually a very interesting thing that I've been watching in the few cons that we've done so far in the different markets or different locations. Is how is it a destination convention or is it a local convention? And I think Phoenix has an interesting experience because there's more than one con in Phoenix, Arizona, but they draw a different crowd. It feels like the Phoenix Comic-Con that's coming up next month is a little bit more of a destination. I get the feeling. I can't confirm this, but I get the feeling that there's a lot more people driving out to Phoenix.
Totally.
For that show, as opposed to Amazing, which feels a little bit more local. That it's more the people who are already within range.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Phoenix is finally getting the reputation that it's worth coming distance for. So pay attention when you're there because you're gonna. I don't know. We meet people from all over the West Coast now, and occasionally from elsewhere too. So. And maybe we can get Matt Solberg, the guy that owns the Phoenix Comic-Con, on here one night. I think I know him, and I think it'd be interesting to talk to him about his show.
That would be really cool because I think it's very easy to be outside of it and make a bunch of assumptions about what the experience is. So I would love to be able to talk to someone organizing these things because I understand what it's like to organize something, but at that scale, I mean, at the scale that they're at and at the success that they're finding, it would be really interesting to see from their point of view how weirdos like us who are a little bit more, unique, like put that effort into not being, that commercial or that professional looking booth. And I say that in the sense that I watch people spend 2 days building a booth. On site because it's all lucite and MDF and stuff. Whereas what you and I are trying to do is be able to roll in and roll out without sacrificing creativity.
Right. The kind of the pop-up store that is really popping up, literally. Yeah.
So for me this year, the change in our booth. Was we were originally planning to be just a 10 by 10, which is what we've mostly been doing still, although we're hitting that barrier, that growing pains barrier.
Yeah.
in line, which means that we just have the 10-foot front, and there'd be a booth on either side of us. We got upgraded to a corner, and we've done shows in the past that we were kind of a corner, like there wasn't anybody next to us on a side, but this is the first time that our booth was actually set up as a corner. So we had open facing on both sides, and the current booth design that I've done can convert from being 10 foot in line to being a corner, so we could rotate everything 45 degrees and do it on a diagonal. And that was an interesting thing, because you end up spending a lot of time thinking about placement and where your facing is and where your exposure. We were next to Pendragon, which we have been next to before. We love those guys, and it's a lot of fun hanging out with them. Across the walkway, though, on either side, well, we had Superhero Stuff, which is one of the large T-shirt retailers, and they tend to take up like 4 to 6 spaces, so they're a large booth with a high-profile setup. And then we also had a couple like art gallery collectibles kind of thing, so a lot of framed posters and stuff. So a lot of 8-foot tall booths with 8-foot tall walls of product on the front edge, as opposed to walk-ups like what you and I do, where the people can just walk up to us; they don't have to walk inside.
Right.
So the interesting thing for me on that corner space is just sort of managing, the exposure. And I think we're at the point now where we kind of have to, like you were saying earlier, going back and forth becomes a nightmare. Changing sizes.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem like it would be a big deal, but like for me, I have 50, 60 prints, and so I'm gonna have stock that I can't bring, which means they don't sell if they don't come, and it's a lot of work where you're having to, like for me, I plan my print wall before the show. I actually make a map of where each print goes on the wall, and I do it on eye line, I do it on the direction that people are probably coming from in traffic and all that. So anyway, yeah, that goes out the window. For us, we were next to Dark Horse Comics and Boom Studios, which is bizarre for us. We've never been between two big comic publishers, and at first I was a little I'm not so excited about that, because I was like, well, I don't know. I mean, we sell what we do, but it doesn't mean that people are necessarily crossover, But I mean, I love Hellboy. Don't get me wrong, favorite comic in the world, but not everybody there is in Hellboy, and not everybody that loves Hellboy loves what we do, probably. But it turned out to be okay. Right. It turned out to be all right. I was even on a dead aisle. I was on an aisle that was not a traffic aisle for my main facing, and that was a big concern, because you want to be on the corner of two busy aisles, double wides if possible. And I got one, but I was 10 feet off of it because of a pillar, so it was kind of like I was a little scared. I was super scared, but it all turned out okay. So you never know. I mean, don't give up on a show until it's over.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of those things where it's almost too easy to anticipate problems. To sit there and go, oh, I'm looking at the floor map here, and I've got so and so across the from me, and I've got blah blah blah, and I'm not on a direct entryway, and I'm too close to to this group, and not far enough away from that group, and it's one of those things where I think this is something we'll explore as the weeks go on with this, and talk about how location influences and how other vendors influence and your experience. But it's interesting, because on paper I could have said, oh, this is going to be horrible. None of the vendors around me, other than maybe Pendragon, are of the same concept, where they're creating a handcrafted goods, quality, or not like something that you'd have to save up for, not something that it's not a small thing. Behind us was a lot of autographed arts, a lot of that kind of collectible, where it's so and so signed this poster and it's got all these names, and across from us is the same thing. So it's easy to sit there and say they'll be the wrong influence for us, or we're not in the right area. But walking the floor, and the little time I actually managed to get over to Hall A, it almost felt like a completely different show over there. It really did have. It was one of those things where you're like, oh, this is a different vibe. And I don't know if it was. I can't say it's better or worse, but it just felt like. It just had a different feel to the way it was laid out. And it was still boxes, but I think it was a lot more vertical stuff, a lot more store retailers, so a lot more like bigger spaces over there. So it's one of those things where I've gotten to the point now where I'm almost hesitant to even make a judgment call based on where I'm located.
And the truth of the matter is that, we're going to have some shows. We don't have a lot of control of where our booths are placed. We have almost no control. So, the best advice with this is to just be adaptable, and try your best to make it work. But we'll get into that later.
Yeah, we'll get into talking about the concepts of how to make your presentation more important than your location, in a sense.
Yeah.
They're all things that come into play, but I think the presentation becomes key. And that's actually walking around and looking at my booth from the outside. I still have a lot of work to do. I still have a lot I want to change about it. So, and that'll be something that, will be constantly going on, because that's clearly what we're passionate about.
Right.
But all in all, I really I enjoyed WonderCon Anaheim. I thought it was a good show. And there's always more I can learn from it and adapt to. But I had a good experience with it. Yeah,
absolutely. I'm thrilled that it finally kind of perked up and felt like, it's not that it wasn't excited. The people weren't excited for it in San Francisco, but sometimes it would be really rainy, and then that show would be bad. So it was great to just have a real solid one.
Yeah. So yeah, I think we can say WonderCon is worth visiting for everyone. Thumbs up, yes, in honor of the passing of Roger Ebert. We will give WonderCon 2 thumbs up.
Yes. And a moment of silence.
Yes, and some tea. He was a great man.
Is that tea Mr. T flavored tea?
No, it is not Mr. T flavored tea.
Okay.
Because that's a scary, scary thought.
I pity the tea.
Yes. This is a chocolate. This could be a coconut chai kind of a thing.
Whoa.
This is my coconut chai.
Maya
made me tea before we started this thing, and I didn't bother to ask what I'm drinking, because it's not important. I just like my tea.
Sorry.
So let's talk about the show, since we are coming up to the end. One of our ideas for the show is to try to control length on it, because Daniel and I can spend all day long chatting online like this.
It's true.
So we're going to try to it'll take us a while to figure out what our sweet spot is for time, and it'll flex a little bit. I'm shooting for somewhere around a half hour, I'm guessing. I'm thinking that's probably a tangible dimension. And our long-term goal is to post these. Just obviously, they'll directly post to our YouTube page. And then also we'll pull them down and we'll rip the audio off of them and try to make them, audio podcast listenable as we.
Oh boy, you are frozen in time. Maybe this is the end. I'm going to be patient.
God, that hurt. All right. We are back. My DSL just completely crapped out on me.
Crap.
Yeah, damn you, Verizon. So yeah, it probably cut off for you. I don't know what happened to the end of the previous hangout.
Well, yeah. So for me, it just kept it going. So I talked, sang
Vamp!
sang some songs, it was a real treat. I'm pretty sure. And then I
Yep.
tried to email you and
Well, we'll see what happens if it
well,
actually works. So,
hopefully it'll
um,
salvage some of that.
that should go together fine. So, in the off chance that I'll probably pull this down and re-edit and stick a little ending on it. So, to get back to what we were talking about before, these episodes will be a little bit shorter because clearly I can't trust my internet to stay on that long.
You should shake it.
Yes, I should shake it. I should throw it against a wall. So really, all that's left for us to talk about tonight is show title conception. So let's talk about a few of our ideas. Where did I put that email? So we've been throwing around a few ideas for the title for this concept for this show, and you know, picked up all of the obvious ones like the concessions and things like that, which I think I've seen listed for a number of things, and they have been panel discussions or what they would call the panel discussions and stuff. So right now, I think the two that we were leaning towards was to focus more on the booth idea, and I would love to get some input from people out there if anybody's interested to pitch ideas. Right now, I think Booth Bastards was one take, and Booth Babel was the other one, both kind of playing off of the cliche Booth Babe, but because we're going to be pretty much focusing, for the most part, in the beginning, focusing on our experiences on setting up and designing and operating our exhibitor booths. So that's kind of our focus. But
what about bald booths? Because you and me have something else in common.
That is true. We both
Have
are
shiny and new.
Yes, mine is freshly polished.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
It's got a nice sheen going on there.
Yeah.
To it. Oh yeah, we can also discuss head shaving techniques later on.
And tips.
Yes, and tips. I did find my shave oil again, so I'm very excited about that. So,
I like both names. I'm the one that came. Well, it doesn't matter who came up with what. Yeah. I guess I like both. I'd be happy with both, to be honest with you. The one thing I like about Booth Bastards is, even though it's a little crass, what I like about it is that if we ever put together a little book, it could be Booth Bastards Guide to Con Survival. I mean, it could be a...
Ooh, that is a good point. Yeah, I think that is actually a very good point. We might have a name for the show then. Because yes, it is a little crass. I do like the idea that it gives us a little bit of leeway with the tone for the show. That we're not pretending to be erudite and it's got to be intellectual.
Right.
And I'm a huge fan of the word bastard just in general. I don't know why. I was thinking about it since we discussed the title, and I can't actually explain why. But that seems to be a word that I've enjoyed for many, many years. And it would look good on a panel title too. So
it's true. It's got a little bit of that edge, but
yeah.
I like both. I do like both still. For sure. But I was thinking that it may be, but there's a possibility that someday, if this is it could be anything, but I could see us putting together some kind of thing, be it a book, whatever it is, a guide,
right,
ebook, a sandwich. It works well for doing a variety of things. Panels, yeah. So it's an idea, and I think you could with the other name too, but it sort of, it could be.
I'm not sure, because the other names that we came up with, like that one, the Booth Babel, I think the connotation there is almost a little too dependent on the person. So, I see Booth Babel and I immediately think of Douglas Adams. And it also plays into the Tower of Babel
so it's
concept.
funny is I've been reading that name as Booth Babel.
Yes.
So then as soon as you say Babel, then I'm like, oh, there's the DA.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah. Well, anyway, the idea that's why we got to that point and decided let's just throw it out there and see if anybody has any input, one way or the other on this, since the title of the show is probably less important to us than the content of the show at this point.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So we'll put that up. I'll put that in the description. And we can send out links and whatnot to this thing, and have people give us some feedback. So our plan is to do a few more of these beta episodes where we're kind of just winging it, and we'll discuss random topics, and then hopefully we'll lock it down in the next month or two, and actually have topics in advance, like have an idea of where we're going the next week. We will be mixing it up, so we'll have a lot of postmortems on conventions, because we do have a number of conventions coming up that we share, and also conventions that we're not at the same show. And of course that mixes into our times, because Thursday night hangouts are great until you're trying to do it off your phone in some unknown city. But we will try, and we will try to supplement the hangouts with also field reports when we're at the shows, some shorter, mobile recordings. And part of my interest in doing this is the learning aspect of it. I just want to learn a little bit more about communication technology. So I think going forward, it's all going to be a big, grand experiment.
Agreed. I'm with you.
Excellent. Yeah, and I thank you for that. So we'll call it a night for tonight. It was a lot of fun, once again, hanging out with you, Daniel. I could do this every night, but I'm not sure anybody wants to watch that.
Well, I do. So what's your URL, Jason? How do people find you?
Easiest way to find me, Fez-o-rama.com. It could be Fez-o-rama or Fez-o-rama. Either of those we maintain. You can find me on Twitter at Fezmonger, one word there. We're also on Facebook, Fez-o-rama, no dashes.
Excellent.
And where can we find your brilliance, Daniel, on the line?
So steamcrow.com. On Twitter, it's steamcrow. If you Google Steam Crow, you'll find all the other ways, except on Facebook, where I have Steam Crew as our fan page, because it's the crew of all of us together. So yes, Steam Crow.
Excellent. So we will, hopefully some people will take a look at this, and we'll get some feedback so that we can learn what we're doing that we shouldn't be doing.
Or else.
Or else, yes.
It's a
Or
threat.
else we'll continue doing this. Yeah, and then you won't be able to stop us from doing that annoying thing that you don't want to watch. So, thank you very much, and hopefully next week we will have a whole bunch more stuff to talk about.
Goodbye.
Good night.